Scientists are going missing, or even worse, turning up dead. And the common link between them is that they may have all known the truth about UFOs and alien life. Yeah, this is some Men in Black shit today. This is about to get really, really weird. So stick around. But before we get into it, I've got to say a big thank you to today's sponsor. Before you go on any trips away this year, you absolutely need to get this app. I travel all the time, and multiple times, me and the lads have been stung with massive phone bills. You think you're texting on the hotel Wi-Fi, before you know it, you get the phone bill. What was I doing? And it's not just that. Just getting signal when you're away is an absolute nightmare. And this is why I use Saily for just the price of a coffee. Saily will keep you connected wherever you are, so you don't have to hop from hotel Wi-Fi to restaurant Wi-Fi. You're literally going to have the best connection no matter where you are. And it's cheap, so you're not going to get that big phone bill. Honestly, it's a no-brainer. All you have to do is click the link in the description below, install your eSIM, and when you land, boom, you're in business. And every time I've used it, I've had a better connection in the hotel Wi-Fi. I can watch live streams. I can download movies. It's brilliant. When I went to Vegas, this was an absolute lifesaver. And the best bit is there's a 15% discount when you use my link in the description below. Even if you're not traveling till later in the year, I know you might forget. So do it now, because this will come in handy. Just go to saily.com/Geordie and you can get 15% off. Do it now. Don't wait until you land and then you regret not doing it in advance, because this is a game changer. So over the last few years, over 10 scientists and researchers tied to the most top secret US projects, I'm talking NASA, nuclear, anti-gravity, propulsion systems, all of this crazy advanced technology that we really have no idea what's going on. They've died or disappeared in ways that are just so suspicious, and the numbers are just racking up consistently. Some were shot, some shot themselves, some just disappeared one day, didn't even take their belongings, just walked out the house and were never seen again. Now, this girl is called Amy Eskridge. Now, the story with her is that she took her own life, but the background that she has and the things she said before she died, including, I am not going to take my own life, it's fascinating. Now, her background was experimental propulsion technology. This is space travel, essentially, where you modify gravity, or she was involved in anti-gravity. And interestingly, her father was also a long-time NASA engineer, and he specialized in propulsion also. Now, she talked in the following interview about how she got started and some of the things she witnessed.
I was a little autistic girl, and I was listening to my dad moan and complain about NASA being inefficient and about how we could do anti-gravity if they fucking funded us for my entire life.
Now, she's a little bit drunk there. She mentions at the very start of the interview, I'm drinking. This was like a casual interview and not like the presentations that she's also done online, which are a lot more professional. And she mentions anti-gravity there. Now, to my knowledge, the government haven't actually acknowledged that they have that ability. I think there's bits out there that they are in, researching it or whatever, but there's not been an acknowledgement the way that she talks. She also talks in this interview about them trying to almost suppress this anti-gravity research.
Is my dad to independently discover anti-gravity. And this dude, this katana wielding dude, made a really big deal about, he was like, okay, listen to me. It's been independently discovered 4 other times. He said it has been suppressed every single fucking time. And he said, I don't think they're going to suppress it this time. He said, I think you're in the clear. He said, they obviously know about you, because I've had multiple, both protective and threatening interactions with various agency affiliations, whatever. He was like, if you haven't had a US government agent come to you and say, stop, shut the fuck up, stop, shut the fuck up. If that hasn't happened, they're going to let you do it.
So she mentions other people who have independently apparently discovered anti-gravity, and that she herself has also done it, and that there's a reluctance there, or there's an acknowledgement of, I'm in a dangerous situation here. I'm not supposed to be putting this out there. And she also talks in this interview about the people visiting Earth, who they might be, what they really are.
The Ultraterrestrials, I think, have you heard of the P-52s and the P-47s? Do you know what that is? They're us from the future. They're from here, from the future. P-47 is present plus 47,000 years. P-52 is present plus 52,000 years.
So she sat there with her degrees, her dad, NASA engineer, all of that, all of her, research into advanced propulsion systems. And she's saying, look, these people who are coming to visit Earth, these UFOs, it's us from the future, thousands and thousands and thousands of years into the future. And I know she's kind of drunk when she's saying it, but still, it's fucking mind-blowing that, just to even consider. And it's funny because I've heard this theory in multiple different forms before, where this alien life thing isn't really like extraterrestrial alien from planet Zog, but it's actually us either in the future or a relation to us that previously came down here, genetically altered us, fucked off for a few thousand years, came back to see how we're getting on. I've heard this theory a lot, but I'm not the one whose dad works for NASA and all of that, you know what I mean? Like, I ain't got no credibility if I say it. This girl may be ruffled a few feathers with some of the stuff that she was coming out with, and I think that the anti-gravity stuff seems to be the thing that she's more concerned with, and she does mention people monitoring her.
The first time we noticed the break-in, we came home and there was a micro USB charger plugged into the wall, left there, cut in half with a knife, with the wire exposed on, and like both halves, like half of it is plugged into the wall and half of it is just sitting on the counter, and it's cut in half with a knife. What the fuck? And
she was actually asked at one of the talks that she gave about the potential that she may disappear one day.
Well, what about the innovator who's afraid of disappearing?
Well, that's a whole nother problem. I think doing it in the public is better in that case.
Now, she recorded pictures of potential injuries that she said that she was taking on from having like energy weapons used against her. There's this mark on her, there was marks on her hands, mark on the back of her neck, I think that is. And prior to her death, she sent a friend a message saying that if you see any report that I killed myself, I most definitely did not. If you see any report that I overdosed, I most definitely did not. If you see any report that I killed anyone else, I most definitely did not. Now, I have to admit, that girl is a bit odd. And let's be honest, she's into anti-gravity. She wasn't going to be your run-of-the-mill sort of average girl getting her hair done. People can be weird and be just fine. They can be weird and have all sorts of problems going on. We have no way of knowing what the truth is. But again, what makes this interesting is the other people who were researching in similar fields who also died. This guy's name is Nuno Loureiro. He was a director of MIT's Plasma Science and Fusion Center, and he was known for research tied to fusion energy and astrophysical plasma dynamics. He was shot and killed. So this guy here is Carl Grillmeyer. He was a NASA award-winning space researcher, and he was fatally shot outside of his home. He discovered water on distant planets. We're talking the finest minds of a generation here. It says here, for decades, his work reshaped how we understand the cosmos, mapping the structure of the Milky Way, uncovering clues about dark matter, tracing stellar streams and advancing exoplanet discoveries. And seeing as he discovered water on distant planets, like this was a huge discovery. If anyone was going to know what the hell was going on outside of planet Earth, it's probably him. Did he go too far? Did he find out too much? This is a crazy way to die for someone who is not exactly a gangbanger in the hood. Now, this next guy is General William Neil McCaslin. He was really high up in the Air Force. Out of all of them, this might be the guy who knew too much. Like, he knew a lot. He was the director of special programs at the Pentagon. We all know that is as classified as it gets. He was the commander of the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Now, why that place is important is because of this story right here. The Roswell Daily Record, a flying saucer has been captured on a ranch in Roswell. Now, that was in 1947, and that's been talked about a lot over the years. Now, apparently, the wreckage from the crash-landed UFO was taken to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So if you're the commander, and you've been in this place, you probably would have had a fucking look at it. And many believe that this base was where they would take alien technology and they would reverse engineer it to then advance our own understanding of technology. Now, this year, he walked out of his home. He left his phone, left his glasses, anything essential, left it. And he's not been seen since. That was it. Wife at home, like, you know what I mean? Like, no goodbye, no nothing, just disappeared. Now, this woman is also linked to him, weirdly. This is Monica Reza, and the title of that picture is The Disappearance of Rocket Scientist Takes a Chilling Turn After Link to Defense Technology Emerges. This woman spent 37 years working for a rocket engine company that was funded by NASA and the Air Force. She later became the director of materials processing at NASA itself, and she co-invented something called Mondelloy. This was a special nickel-based super alloy that was then used in advanced rocket engines, including ones in classified space projects. The same ones that were going on at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And a lot of people connect the commander, McCaslin, and her as clearly in the same field. Potentially they might have worked together, but more importantly, they would have had sensitive information about a lot of similar subjects. We're talking what they call exotic propulsion or non-human technology. Things that the government would definitely want to be kept a secret. Now, what's interesting is, obviously, McCaslin vanished this year. She vanished the year before. Apparently, she was out walking and a couple of friends were like in the distance. They could kind of see her. And they turned round and she was gone. They had helicopters out. They had volunteers out. They had dogs out. She was never seen again. And as I understand it, McCaslin had oversight on the lab at that Air Force Base that she would have been working in. So there was a connection between these two. And in this list, there was 2 other scientists who died. There's no information about how, what, why, when. Nothing. They just died. There is no autopsy record, nothing. So the numbers are racking up, right? The numbers are really racking up here. And as I'm looking into this, they've got all these scientists up here in a row of all the ones from NASA who've gone missing or died. I found one that I didn't even know about. This is Joshua LeBlanc, who was 29. He worked at NASA also. He also worked in propulsion. So they all were in the space travel field, essentially. It says here that he was working on things that would enable us to get to Mars quicker and technology that would enable us to travel outside the solar system. He died in a car crash last year. His Tesla was found burned beyond recognition at 2:45 in the afternoon, so it wasn't like he was out drink driving on a Friday night. His body was found so badly burned beyond recognition that it took 3 days to identify him. His family had even notified the authorities saying that they were worried he'd been abducted, and because he'd left his phone and his wallet at home at the time of the appearance. There's so many similarities between little things that what they worked on. They left all their stuff at home. It's so fucking weird. The police used the Tesla data to see what was happening on the day he died. And apparently his vehicle sat at the airport for 4 hours on the morning of his death. His family said that that wasn't part of the plan for the day, and that it was very uncharacteristic of him to not be communicating with them, which he wasn't on that day. Dude, this is fucking mental. This is really weird now, like. And in the last few days, things got even weirder. Now, this guy isn't a scientist. He's a UFO researcher, and his name is David Wilcock. He was on YouTube, he wrote books, and he's talked about a lot of things, not just UFOs. And in the last few days, he took his own life. Now, a lot of people are connecting the dots here and saying that he may be also connected to this wave of disappearances and killings, even though he isn't officially a part of that group.
The UFO question does ultimately become a spiritual question. As you go into the UFO subject in modern times, there are certain reports of contactees that come up again and again where the contactees are experiencing direct interaction with benevolent extraterrestrials, many of whom look human.
And interestingly there, just like the girl said earlier, he says they are humans visiting humans. They are versions of us.
The scope and the depth of the UFO cover-up, this is vastly beyond the idea of grays from Zeta Reticuli that crashed in Roswell. That is ancient history. We're now dealing with insiders who are very credible, who are being threatened with their lives for coming forward in very aggressive ways. My colleague Emery Smith had his dog killed by what clearly appears to be some kind of deep state operation. And we've had William Tompkins get killed under very suspicious circumstances.
Interesting that he brings up people getting threatened there, just like the girl said earlier. And he actually goes into what the girl said about anti-gravity also.
You have to go back and look at these ancient civilizations that were able to levitate gigantic blocks of stone, put them together like a jigsaw puzzle with perfect fits between the rocks. And that would be the work, in my view, of an extraterrestrial civilization that didn't need to bring any material with them. They just use the native rock of the planet they go to. If they have anti-gravity and levitation, it's not hard to work those stones. It's not hard to take a 100-ton block and lift it up. So with that in mind, when we see how every ancient religion, every ancient culture in our world is founded by these extraordinary humans that are like us but not like us. They have extremely amazing gifts.
And look, I'm not saying I believe everything he's saying here, but it is mad how the older I get, the more that this whole angels came to earth thing is directly linked to, it was fucking aliens. The older I get, the more that seems to be the common theory here. And when he talks about the level of precision that those pyramids were built with, and the impossibility that it was to raise stones that big, that high in that era with the level of technology that the Egyptians were supposed to have had. There is no theory that sounds spot on to me. No, there isn't one. But that floating stone shit it sounds cool. I can't lie. It sounds wild.
We don't see a gradual progression of a civilization that takes the necessary thousands of years to build up to the point where it could do highly technological acts. So somebody had advanced technology. The implication is that this technology was not local to Earth, but that this was a refugee group or multiple refugee groups who actually came to Earth. And in fact, this is the occult secret story of Lucifer, Lucifer the fallen angel. And in the book of Enoch, what you hear about is a race of cannibalistic giants who crash landed on Earth and are called the fallen angels. And they are, in fact, eating people here on Earth.
And the thing I really like what he said there is that it wasn't like we've seen a gradual increase in the ability of the civilizations back then up to the pyramid. It was just like, boom, there's the pyramids, done, perfect. What were you worried about? When you talk about could they have been built by aliens or whatever you want to call it, the fact that those pyramids line perfectly within our solar system to match up to exact stars, or the fact that one of the pyramid is almost a perfect replica in terms of the size, shrunken down by X amount of times to planet Earth. There's so many mathematical calculations that would have gone into that. I'm very interested in this sort of thing. And I think there's a good reason why none of this was communicated to me when I was at school and they were like, yeah, the Egyptians just pulled the rocks, chucked them on, there you go. It just doesn't stack up, does it? It's so advanced for that period in human civilization. It's crazy. And look, this guy went deeper than just UFO stuff, right? He talked about government and control and stuff like that.
These people honestly believe that they are the descendants of gods, that they are the chosen, that they are God's special people, that we are delusional, and that the true creator is this wisdom principle that they think of as Lucifer, that wisdom principle gave us ancient mystery school teachings, and that the enemy, which they call Adonai, the adversary, which we would call the Christian God, came to try to defeat them. Then they even take it a step further and they look at texts like the Bible and they say that where it says in the end times that God will take the money from the wicked and restore it to the just, that we as a planet are the wicked and they are the just. So this is how they justify their financial corruption. They don't believe that we deserve the money. In fact, they believe that if they did not dominate us and if they did not control us and play all these games, that we left to our own devices would destroy our planet. So in some twisted rationale, they believe they are saving the earth. They believe humans are bad for the environment. We cause pollution, so they have to reduce population. Then they seed that into movies.
Now, this guy allegedly took his own life, but not before his final live stream where he did speak about these scientists who are going missing and dying.
Every day that I have on earth is a gift and a blessing, and I'm very grateful for that because, frankly, people are disappearing. Scientists are going missing. Now they're saying they're going to investigate this. The president himself is saying they're going to look into this and see if anything's going on. It's a little bit scary. I got to say, it's a little bit scary. But you guys knew that I might still show up even though it was last minute and I've had a really rough week.
Two things he says there. One, he says, I'm grateful for every day. Very positive. But then he also says at the end, I've had a very rough week. And at one point, he actually does address the idea of people taking their own lives.
So you don't get to resurrect. If you lay down your life, you're done. So please don't do that. Please don't be stupid. Okay? It's something you never want to have to go through. And again, natural is the only way to go.
I mean, that is an interesting thing to hear just, hours before this guy took his own life. So as you can imagine, the internet has been connecting the dots here, right? There's a lot of people who are either talking about similar things or involved with similar things, dying and disappearing. And a lot of people seem to think that there is a conspiracy here to silence those who have knowledge about our reality, extraterrestrial intelligence, and all of that sort of shit. And what makes it slightly interesting is Donald Trump came out and said that he was about to release some UFO files. It was 6 days after that announcement that General McCaslin went missing. And people are speculating that he would have felt like maybe his family would have been at risk or whatever if people with insider knowledge had have been at risk of contradicting the files that Trump was about to release. We know Donald Trump's history with releasing all the files isn't the best. There's the files and then there's the version we're getting. And if you know the version we're getting is bullshit, probably better that you might not be around to contradict it. That's the theory. And that's the theory for why all of these people prior to this point have had to go. Now, do I believe that there's a conspiracy going on here? Absolutely. And I love a conspiracy, but I have to admit, not all of these deaths. I'm not going to sit there and go, every last one of them, I know for a fact. Of course not. But when you're getting into like 11 and 12 people in a matter of like 3 years, all dying, who would have had really top shelf knowledge, hands-on, working with potentially UFOs, for example. Or at the very least, they would have known classified information that potentially would have put the government at risk of being exposed. And let's be real, people have been killed for less. It took the US government decades just to acknowledge Area 51 exists even. Secrecy when it comes to this sort of stuff is everything. And when you look at the kind of things that could have been revealed to us by these people, potentially, hidden knowledge about our history, physics, have we been visited before, alien technology, are we the only people in the universe? Actually, no, definitely not. We already know this. It could change the way everyone on the planet thinks, right? Not just the way we think about our place in the universe, but the way we view authority. What if there's another level and what we listen to this lot for? And again, I'm not saying that that is a fact and that is exactly how it is, but I'm just suggesting that that is possible. If you had that kind of knowledge, you'd rather keep people on planet Earth in the dark because knowledge is power. And I think it's possible that in some of these cases, not all of them, some people just generally are ill and people want to do that to themselves. Some people generally walk away from a home one day and never want to come back. That's possible. But all of them, I think some of these people knew too much. And I think the less we know, the better, because that encourages compliance within the systems that we live in. If we're just tiny, insignificant ants on a bit of bread, we're less likely to kick up a fuss, aren't we? And one or two of these scientists might have known some of the biggest secrets the planet has to offer. And for me, when I seen the moon landing footage and, you know, back in the, what was it, the 60s when they used to have roll-up windows and, you know, like literally didn't even have a fucking doorbell then. We had knockers. And you're telling me we went to the moon back then? Talking to the president on a fucking landline. Oh yeah, that's great up here. It's fantastic. That was the point where I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not a believer in everything you're going to feed us here. And that doesn't mean I think I know everything that these guys had to offer. It just keeps me open-minded. But look, let me know how you see it. This is a really weird and quite dark video because, again, it's easy to disconnect from these people. Their researchers, their scientists, they almost like seem like characters out of Independence Day or Men in Black. They're real people and really bad things happen to them. It's a fucking dark one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you lot have to say because this is so weird and not my normal topic, as you know. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Big love to everyone supporting this channel. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.